Hello, everyone. Joseph Lavoie here, and welcome to Business is Politics. Last week, I talked about how every business is in the business of politics, and we talked about how every CEO is a de facto political leader. We're going to build on that idea this week, and we're going to talk today about how every business and every political leader needs to demonstrate that they have voter demand. We're going to talk about what this means in the business of your business. So, if you are running a business today, you know that you have to, no matter how good your product is, no matter how good your service is, you know you need social proof to demonstrate that there is value to your product, that your service is worth buying, that you do good work. The concept of social proof, I think, is a well understood concept in business and in sales. And this concept is, I'd say, even truer, and it becomes especially true when you're in the business of lobbying political decision makers or regulators. So think about it this way. If you are in business, you are in the business of demonstrating voter demand. Why? Because if you think about it, politicians are ultimately accountable to the people they represent. I know that seems so trivial and so common sense, but that simple premise guides the way politicians think, the way political decision makers think, and it should guide the way we think when we are at that intersection of business and politics, which means a elected official is more likely to support policies that align with their constituents' interests. Well, how are they going to know if a policy idea or what you're advocating for aligns with their interests? They need to hear from those voters directly. It's your responsibility to demonstrate using real voters, using constituents in their riding. It's your responsibility to demonstrate that you're offering your policy idea, your product, your legislative framework, your regulatory changes, that they have support among voters. Mobilize voters, get the support of lawmakers. That's a basic principle behind demonstrating that you have voter demand. So then the obvious question becomes, well, how can you prove you have voter demand? I'll spend a lot of time on this in coming episodes, but I'll boil it down to four core points right now. The first is you need to map your values. The second is you need to campaign on those values. The third is you need to ask people to make contact with decision makers. And the fourth is only then, once you've done so, can you engage with decision makers. Let's come back to the top on those. Number one, map values. We now live in an environment where information is coming at us at crazy speeds. We have short attention spans. Our ability for voters to consume really complex regulatory issues is becoming very difficult. The area that becomes very instinctive for people to wrap their heads around is if you're able to speak to them at an emotional basis about values. And if they can feel that the values you stand for are aligned with their values, you're going to unlock their ability to digest your cognitive argument, your ideas much more clearly. If you do the research and you identify what those values are, you find how they align with your voter base. You then need to campaign on those values. The audience that you need to mobilize, that you need to engage, if they don't know what values you stand for, it's going to be very difficult for them to come on board with your project. Once you've done the work of aligning on values, campaigning on those values, and you're starting to build momentum and voters are expressing an interest in wanting to support your idea, the mistake a lot of organizations make is they don't ask people to then make that opinion heard directly to elected officials. And so ask people to make contact with decision makers. Once you've done so, and once it's been done at a sufficient volume, and it doesn't have to be millions of people doing this, it can be hundreds, it can be tens, but once you start mobilizing voters to make direct contact with key political decision makers, you'll then be in a much better position to yourself have conversations with those people. So in the business context, yes, you need to have customer demand. You need social proof to help grow that demand. But in the political context, you need to prove you have voter demand. And I want to have you start thinking about how the two are not mutually exclusive. When you are speaking to customers, start thinking about how you're speaking to voters.